I will start with a short history of the Saxons in Transylvania, because I'm not sure how much you know about it, so just some details. The Transylvanian Saxons, they started to arrive beginning of the 12th century, especially in the first decade, mainly from the Rhine area in Germany. Later on, in other waves which followed still in the 12th century up to 1300, let's say it was the main period of colonization, and they came also from northern France and from Franken in Germany. The second wave, which happened in the 12th century, came because the Arcadian king Geza II, the Hungarian king, needed his eastern border to be defended. So he invited colonists by offering them privileges and land. The last colonization wave was happening in the 18th century, when many Protestants had to leave or wanted to leave Austria. So they settled in Transylvania, and they are called landlers. In general, why are they called this German-speaking colonists Saxons in English or Sachse in German? Doesn't have anything to do with the Saxon land in Germany, nor with the Britons in UK. But it means in the Hungarian administration it was a term to define them. It means invited settlers. These colonists had reasons to emigrate and reasons to immigrate to Transylvania. Written resources, there are not so many, so the colonization process has to be understood in the European context. We have to look at what happened in Europe, how Europe looked in the 12th century to understand why they came and how they came. First, why they left their houses. The first wave of colonists tried to escape from the Crusades, which happened on the background of famine, epidemics, and socialist unrest. Later on, they were attracted, as I said, by land promises and different privileges. And anyway, this region, Transylvania, was very appealing because of the economic situation there. This means that not regular peasants came to Transylvania, but monks from different orders, miners, craftsmen, traders, people which had skills. And because they had skills, they had a huge impact on the region they colonized. They settled, as I said, in Transylvania, and I wanted to show you the map of the whole Romania to see how concentrated the churches are. Mainly in southern, mainly in southern Transylvania, but also here in northern Transylvania and here close to Kronstadt, Brașov, in the so-called Wurzenland. I think this is the reason why the Saxon fortified churches are so impressive. I mean, fortified churches are existing everywhere in Europe, as you well know. In France, I think this is the main leader with more than 300 or 350 churches. We have less, 150, 180, 200 is depending on who's counting. But it's impressive how many there are on a very small area. And it's also impressive how they were preserved in their historic shape. So this is a detail of the map I showed you earlier to see indeed how many there are. Again, why we always speak about the landscape of fortified churches. It's not only the building itself or the ensembles. It's impressive that they are preserved together with their surrounding villages and mainly untouched natural landscape. The colonists, when they arrived, they settled in villages first, which were very much following the rules. The houses, as you can see, were arranged very close to each other in rows, ordinately, as we know. And what is very important, the agricultural land was outside the village all the time. Inside, the organization was, as you can see, the plots were long. Here on the street, they were close the main house with the gate, and then the yard, and then the annex buildings, and in the back shelters for animals, and then the garden. And this was the only individual property they had, so this long plots belonging to one family. The rest of the land was used in common, so everybody, the whole village had to work, and the harvest was split in the end between them. And I think this enhanced the community spirit, it looked like. The churches were, of course, the most important buildings in the villages, therefore they were built always in a privileged position. There's different situations. One I showed you before, so the main road is split in like a Y, and in the middle of the Y is the fortified church. Or we have an intersection of one main street and one secondary street, and the church is here. Or we just have the long main street, and at one point, probably in the middle or also in the middle of the village, there is a small square on one side, and there is the church located. Or, again, a small square, the main road is coming, splitting in two, and then continuing. Or, and this is the most impressive you can see in Transylvania, if there was a hill somewhere in the village or next to it, the church was built on it, and then the view of it's really impressive. Not to forget to mention the European dimension. The colonists came to Transylvania, but this doesn't mean that they stayed closed here and they cut all the connections with the places they came from. The cultural exchanges and the permanent economic exchanges happened all the time, with maybe some breaks during the heavy attacks when, of course, no communication was possible. But still, the churches started to be built in the 12th century and started to be fortified at the beginning of the 14th century with the first Ottoman attacks. But already in the 13th century we can notice that Baroque elements are starting to appear on the churches. And that time it was also the fashion of architecture in Europe. So this is showing how strong the connections were. And interestingly enough, still happens today. These are the so-called Wandergesellen, the migrating craftsmen, and they are getting trained in their countries. They are coming mainly from Germany, but also from France, from Switzerland. And for 1 year they are supposed to work far away from home. I think they are not allowed to come closer than 500 kilometers. And they found a home in Sibiu, in Hermannstadt, in Romania, and they have a house there. Casa Cartolo means the house of these migrant workers. They come every summer, they have their workshops there, and they are also working in the villages or with people which ask them. Let's go back to our ships, to our churches. As I said, the first churches were built in the beginning of the 12th century as Romanesque buildings, with one main nave and two secondary, with the chancel with the long apse, so it's not very visible here. Normally, they also had a very strong tower here on the western side. This is the only Romanesque church which still exists as such in Transylvania. The others are all Gothic. It's interesting to notice, or the historian discovered, that all these Romanesque churches were alike, so very much similar. This means that the colonists, when they arrived, they really followed the rules in organizing the villages, but in also building the churches. Later on, as I said, with the first Ottoman attacks in the 14th century, the churches are starting to be fortified. Simple fences, which were around palisades sometimes, or just earth around it, are becoming strong walls, which are heightened, fortified. They have parapet walks, battlement walks like this, loopholes, and they also have towers. I want to show you here two examples of churches. So the Romanesque basilicas, which were already built in the time of the first invasions, like this one, was fortified because of these attacks. So the chancel was heightened because here it's a hill and it was needed to offer protection from the hill. But the second church was built exactly in those difficult times. This means that it was from the beginning built as a fortification. So we have the nave and we have the chancel as one building with a common defense level under the same roof. So indeed working like a tower. Already in the 14th century, the religious function of the churches was enhanced by the military one. Here we have an example how one of the fortified churches evolved in time. So it became, as I said, known as basilica with a simple palisade, with a wooden tower, entrance tower, and moat water around it. Later on, we have the tower above the chancel. The gate tower is bigger. In the next phase, also the church, I mean the main nave, is heightened, and on the western entrance there is another strong tower. The round fortification were very good for equally splitting the warriors and for better protecting the castle. But when the fire weapons appeared, it was not enough anymore. Therefore, the fortification or the ring wall became rectangular with towers in the corners. Last modification for this church happened, I think, in the 17th century when the towers were transformed in bastions. The fortification system of some of the churches became more and more complicated. Sometimes we had not only one surrounding wall, but two or three, with the so-called Zwinger. Here it's one, where the animals were sheltered in case of need. And these walls were not simple walls, but on the interior face they had, as you can see here, this were room for sheltering the villagers during the attacks, and behind them there is the battlement walk with the roof holes and other defensive systems. Many historians have tried to classify the fortified churches, and it's not easy because you have to decide where you start and where you stop. I mean, if you analyze the current situation, or if you go until it is considered the most important phase of the fielding or not. So I won't try to make classification, but I will show some examples. For instance, this church has a fortified chancel, and it has a bell tower on the western facade, which is also fortified. Another example, this one is a UNESCO monument, and it's strongly fortified. It has the chancel, as you see, very strong. It has the bell tower in the west, very strong, and it has two small towers, which unfortunately are not very visible here on this side and on the other side. This one has only one tower above the transept. Not only the exterior appearance of the churches is impressive, but also what you can find inside. The roofs are actually quite an experience to visit them, and sometimes quite an experience or adventure, better said. There are churches where nobody was in the last 20 years, so you never know if it's still holding on or not. But in general, they do. Yeah, these are two examples of stairs, but these are the good ones, so safe ones. Or small details which sometimes the tourist doesn't even notice them, like this door handle. It's on a gate in the yard, and it's not so visible, but it's beautiful, I think. And this is from another UNESCO church, and this is a lock which was presented together with the door at the fair in 1900. I think it was in Barcelona, and it got a prize because it's a very complicated system. I hope you can see it. It's getting locked in 12 points. So here there are 3, here there are 4, and again 3, and here also. So it's a very complicated system, and it's still functional. This was the treasure room. and I had to say it, but it was robbed. Maybe somebody is betrayed and offered the key, I don't know, because the lock still works. Also, the interiors are interesting, and some of them well preserved with nice walls, with very valuable organs or altars and other furnitures like the chairs or pulpit or most of the interior furniture is from the Baroque time. So Gothic elements are just few left. So we have the Gothic churches and the Baroque furniture. Yeah, this is another treasure which can be only from time to time found. It was actually almost church had a Speckturm, so vacant tower, where the whole village was keeping this food, and it was ruled every Sunday after church. Each family was allowed to enter the tower and to cut a piece of it, and to be sure that nobody is taking from somebody else, they had special sign to mark their piece. And it's nice to see that at least in 2 or 3 towers in Transylvania you can still find this. They are not belonging to the whole, only to some families or to the burghüters, so to speak. And starting from this goodie, I'd like to tell you a short story. One time when the Turks attacked the village, the villagers tried to escape into the forest, hoping that they won't be found. But the trader told the Turks where everybody is hiding. And when the villagers, the Saxons, found out, they cut the first rows of the trees of the forest and built a wall in attempt to defend themselves. And they were so desperate that they put it on top also this speck, which actually in Saxon is called boflish, to make the wall look higher. But when the Turks approached, they were completely unimpressed of their defense, and they just set the wall on fire. But when the boflish started to burn, the smell was, you can imagine, absolutely terrible. So, unfortunately for the Turks, they considered the pork impure. They were so disgusted that they couldn't tell the truth, and they just had to leave. So, I think this is maybe the only example in history when speck is actually saving lives, not causing, I don't know what kind of disease this. This story and many others like this, maybe not so funny, but anyway interesting, are in our application for smartphones, die überwürdige Kirchenbuchlandschaft. It's like a touristic guide, and it's including, as I said, funny stories about the village, but also a history of the churches, and things for tourists like where is the key from the church, where you can stay overnight, if there is something interesting in the village. We have up to now 100 churches included, and that's working with the GPS, so it can also help you orientate in the country. Yeah, this is a good example, I think, of medieval ages and modern technology coming together. This is Hansi, and you will find a story about him at the village of Hetzeldorf. This is a real woodcutter still. As beautiful and as important and valuable the fortified churches are, but they are of course under threat. And what is now left from this saying, "Feste Burg ist unser Gott." Actually, this saying is also stating why the churches stayed as they are, so with their medieval look. Why it didn't happen like somewhere else in Europe when the fortification was demolished because they had no other military purpose, and the material was used to build other buildings. In Transylvania didn't, because the Saxons felt that they had to offer a tribute to their history, so they preserved the walls as they were still necessary, because they had to preserve the same in Feste Burg ist unser Gott. Many of the churches are not used anymore. The community which took care of them doesn't exist anymore, or it's very limited, so to speak. Actually, as the colonists came in wave, they also left like this. They started to live first after the Second World War, And actually, I think the worst was after 1989, after the revolution. And as one old Saxon said, the past and the worst didn't make so much harm to our community as democracy did. And now from 250,000 Saxons, there are, I think, something like 13,000 left, and most of them old. So these are, as I said, images caused by water infiltrations, or like this, roofs which are collapsing. Yeah, this is one ruin. Unfortunately, there are a few like this, not so many, but already some. And lately I also found a very beautiful looking house dry rot. I think you know how dangerous it is. And yeah, we found a little piece, but then we discovered that almost a third of the roof and the walls is already contaminated, and we are still working on it to get rid of it. Therefore, something I forgot to tell you, actually, the fortified churches are a property of the Evangelic Church of Augustan Confession in Romania. And this church, the higher body, it's the Lantas Consistorium, Superior Consistory, and it has its headquarters in Sibiu, in Hermannstadt. And when they saw how difficult the situation is, they decided to do something. One step was establishing the Leichtere Kirchenwohnung, the Office for Fortified Churches, the Coordination Office for Fortified Churches, and this happened in 2007 with financial support from the German government. For the moment, the team was bigger. For the moment, it's like this, three persons. Let's say these two ones are the intervention team on field. There's a third colleague, but you don't really see him. He's under piles of papers, so no picture with him. Now, our tasks are, I think the most important is this one. So, small repairments or emergency repairings for maintaining the churches or for preserving them for the future. We also do all kinds of coordination, or we are trying to bring together partnership initiatives, actors, people which are interested in this heritage. Of course, public relations, the application I showed you before, it's part of it. Fundraising, and this one is a very sensitive topic, trying to make the whole process for building permit somehow easier. These are the, let's say, the three main groups of what we do with regard to actual construction works. The so-called DHER program, the roof road program, it's about, as I said, small repairings for not only for the roofs, also for the envelope of the building, for the hülle. We have from simple repairings up to 4,000 euros, up to 50,000, but this happens very rarely, so it's really not happening a lot. Mainly, we are working in this field. We are collecting small amounts of money from one church, and then we see what the emergencies are, what we can do to stop the further decay. And the problem is that by law you cannot really do these small repairings, which means actually changing some tiles, closing some holes, or changing some rafters. If you don't do, of course, a whole project and you don't obtain a building permit. And sometimes a project like this could cost up to 3,000–4,000 euros, and then you have 4,000 for repairings, and nobody understands why they have to pay the same amount for some papers, while the church is getting in trouble more and more. So nobody will give 4,000 for the project and then another 4,000 for repairings. And yeah, it's a big problem we have. These are some examples of our roof program. As I said, small measures. This guy here, maybe you can see him here. He's very brave, working with no securing measures. So for works on this tower, where indeed we just changed some lats and some tiles, officially we had to do a project of 4,000 euros. We didn't, but yeah, this was not, let's say, very okay. I mean, we discussed with our bank malant and they agreed, but it was out of record, so to speak. In our program, we are trying always to reuse the material which is still in a good condition. The tiles are tested. If they are still strong enough, they are clean and they are reused. Usually the lats we have to change because they are broken or too old or too weak. In this case, not so many of them. We have to change the watering system, the gutters, and so more repairings. This is an attempt we had to make the whole procedure more easy. Not to make this very complicated authorization process, but something that architects could easily work with. So we found, let's say, the main topics and proposed some measures like in roofing. Please don't use new tiles unless you have to. Maybe you can find old tiles somewhere else, or don't use hydro insulation in case it's not necessary, and things like this. And we hope to take this one step further to official approval, but it's still in progress. So this is an example of how it would look, a very, let's say, a very fast way of identifying the damages. You are sitting in the yard with the pictures of the church in front, and then you are marking on the pictures where the damages are, so you can later on remember and know what to write in the office. Now, next to our main topic in the construction program is the EU project. Our office wrote in 2008 a project for repairing 18 churches, all monuments, of course, of national importance. And it was approved, the project, and it's now in progress. It costed 5.5 million euros for all 18, which is a very small amount of money, I would say. We have another church in Sibiu, in Hermannstadt, the cathedral, which also applied for EU funding, and they will get, or they got already, 4.5 million for one church, and we do with 5.5 million 18. It's an interesting project. It's very complicated, of course. We started with 9 churches in the first year, in 2011 to 2012, and then with the last 9 churches, and it was, let's say, interesting. They should be ready at the end of this year, so in case you are coming to Transylvania until the end of this year, you still have a chance to visit some construction sites. Yeah, exactly. So this European funding was not, in fact, for cultural preservation. It was mainly for tourists. So we had to hide somehow our interest in preserving the churches under the interest of tourist development. So we thought that these 18 churches should be somehow connected in a network which can help in promoting them better. And we have also included some routes for bicycles or walking or by car. And we can make several proposals like trips for 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. Something very interesting we do, it's the international cooperation for different churches. For instance, I will give only some examples. One good example is the Austria for Romania Foundation, founded by the former social attaché of the Austrian embassy in Romania. She is now retired, but still there and still very active. And this lady, Barbara Schoffner is her name, she first rented the farmhouse or the parish house in one village. She moved there and she started to make all kinds of projects like encouraging the villagers to use their skills in preparing jams or schnapps or local products. And she opened a nice store in the fortification where she's selling this to the tourists which are willing, and she's also taking this product to the local market, and she's organizing, for instance, a Christmas market, the Easter market, and then she's promoting also the products for her community. She's organizing all kinds of summer camps here this picture is from, I think, 2010, when she had almost 100 students around. Some of them were skilled, and they helped in repairing windows or, I don't know, steps or all kind of works. The others, which were unskilled and they just wanted to have a good time in Transylvania, were helping a lot in cleaning the precincts, cutting the grass, arranging the trees, all kind of work which nobody has the time or the means to do it. This is the view from her terrace, so if she will ever invite you for lunch, don't say no, because this is the view from the terrace, and something like this you can receive. Another interesting project we have, this is a young carpenter, a German. He moved to Transylvania, I think, 10 years ago. Actually, he came to work for a while and he never left. He started also with the parish house. Now he bought a house in the village and he's staying there. And he's the so-called modern bookkeeper, or nowadays it's more like a project manager. So in the old time, the bookkeeper cleaned the precinct, prepared the church for the service, was sitting in the community room. This one is making tours of the church, explaining the history. He's also repairing, of course, parts of the church, offering coffee and sweets to those who want. And from this tower, you have this view. Well, it could be better, it was a little bit foggy that day. A project where I first learned the expression "Es liegt uns am Herzen" was this one in Mardish, where we started very modest in 2009. We had a meeting there with the Saxons which emigrated from this village. They are now living in Germany, and they came and they said, we have some €1,000 for the church, we would like to repair it, so where to start? And we started, and now in 2013, it came to this nice cooperation. The US Embassy offered us already 2 grants for repairing the church. We had the American ambassador, and you can imagine an American ambassador in a village of 300 people, I think, no more. So everybody was completely shocked to see the SEAL troops or CIA and so on. And everything was possible because of the cooperation we have with the technical school in München. And as you can see, in 2010 they came with 26 students, and each year more and more wanted to come. This was possible because of or due to a European mobility program, Erasmus. I think you know about it. So via Erasmus they paid for the trip and accommodation and meals, and the materials, as I said, it was paid by the US Embassy. And again, one old Saxon said that this must be the new Marshall Plan. The Americans are paying and the Germans are repairing. Another interesting partnership we have with the universities, so with academic institutions. The University of Architecture and Urban Planning in Bucharest took a church in partnership here. And they first, as always, rented the parish house, and now they also rented the school, which is here. And they are also buying another house in the village, so they are building their real complex. And they are organizing all kinds of summer schools. The students are allowed to participate in the repairing the works on the church. This is one of the 18 churches which is in the program. So for them it's a very interesting experience to come from Bucharest and to see what the real construction site means and what are the challenges of one and how it has to be worked and done. And somehow close to it or similar is the Association of Transylvania of Klausenburg in Cluj. It's the University of Arts and Romanian Academy. Actually, there are people from those institutions. It's always not the institution, but the person which is getting involved. And they repaired already we don't have the fortified church, but former noble castle. And they repaired it already. In the former chapel they are organizing seminars and exhibition of the object that the students in arts are producing. I will have to come to an end. And I would like to stress for its heritage, which is actually our heritage, future for our past. The churches and the villages were built at the eastern border of the empire, and they survived the centuries, and now at the eastern border of the European Union are going a little bit under. And we all have to find again a way to offer them again the European dimension, to make them again a cultural hub where things can further develop, because they are not belonging only to the Saxons, they are almost gone, but they are belonging to all of us, not only to the Romanian, but we are going more and more in the direction of unification, so there are no more countries or nations, or they wouldn't in the future. So we have to find new functions for the churches and for the buildings. And we have to be creative. I think it's not easy to find a new function for a church in a village or somewhere. Maybe something like this is a little bit exaggerated. I think it's not acceptable in Romania yet. But yeah, we have the key, and we would like to give it to you anytime you want to come and visit us. Thank you very much.